Welcome to the Aromatix Show. My name is Neeb, your host, and my co-host Rishi. How you doing, Rishi?
Yo, what's up? I'm good. I'm good. How
What's
are you
going
doing?
on, man? Not bad, not bad. Where we talk everything fragrance and some. It's not just going to be fragrance. I mean, who can sit here and talk about? Well, we probably could, honestly.
I mean, you probably
Today,
could, but yeah.
yeah, today for the most part, I really want to talk about how we came about the creations and the picking of these two fragrances, Carnal Desire and Royal Taboo, my newest releases and launches, which are now available on Joma Shop. You can pick them up. They're niche, affordable luxury for less than $60 or $60 or less. But other than that, there is a lot of things happening in the fragrance community right now, and just in the beauty industry in general. I just got a text actually like 10 minutes ago when a bigger creator, just got flagged by a big brand as well for literally talking about fragrances that smell like those, which is crazy. And there's like this bullying culture that's really happening and kind of compromising our freedom of speech on these platforms because of companies who basically are taking advantage of the system. But that's a discussion
And that has
I
happened
went
to you
through.
as well in the past, right? Because you
Yeah, that's
experienced that
something
as well. And on the back
something I've
end,
experienced,
I
definitely.
remember how crazy it was that we were trying to manage how we're gonna, create content,
Yeah.
how we're gonna edit it. It was pretty crazy time, I feel.
Yeah.
And
Rishi is a
it's
good friend of
weird
mine.
to
He's
think.
also a part of the team, and he's also one of the biggest roles in my editing team. So we went through some of those legal issues, or harassment, if you will, and we had to deal with it. Our content suffered,
Yeah.
our mental health suffered, but that's a topic for another discussion. And if you're a creator, you definitely want to catch that one in terms of like how you can avoid it, what steps we took. I spent over $15,000 in legal advice, etc., in regards to that specifically alone. But we got through it, we prevailed, and we will continue to, God willing. So,
Yeah.
continuing on, Rishi, the Carnal Desire and Royal Taboo. I really want to talk
Yeah.
about these in terms of how it came about, the creation process of it, more so than anything.
Exactly. And I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
And I also want to know more about it because I haven't been able to get my hands on it yet because it's not available in India. And I'm sure it will be in the future so that I can at
Yes.
least try it. And second, there's a lot of buzz about it. I've been seeing
Yeah.
the videos, I've been seeing everything. And I really want to know how it actually happened.
Right. Sure. I think it's very worthy of the buzz. I mean, the quality of these are outstanding. The
Yeah,
performance,
it's an
the
extrait de parfum,
packaging.
right?
Yes, they're straights. So I might as well go ahead and show you. So in order to like really deep dive into these, I'll give a backstory in another conversation as to like how all of it started even before this. But for this one, for the most part, this, as you can see, is called Carnal Desire. And if you don't see it, it's this box with like this transformer style of opening in the center. These flaps are actually magnetic, and they two flaps that open up almost like this envelope style. And when you close it shut, they're magnetized together, and the actual bottle itself, the aromatics portion, is revealed through the box as a part of
Right.
the presentation. Carnal Desire is on the front. It's extrait de parfum with French Avenue there as well. On the back, we have
So
that
the
seal of
bottle is
authenticity.
the part of the presentation, if I'm correct.
Exactly. And it looks, I
Right.
mean, take a look at that, you guys.
Yeah,
It's
I see it, man.
crazy.
I see it.
Meticulously attention, like we paid meticulous attention to detail. On the back, we do have authenticity stickers just in case, you never know. And on
Yeah.
the inside, it's this very nice textured cutout that's velvety, and the bottle itself looks like so. So the bottle itself has a few inspirations of other perfumes that I personally love. As with anything in the world, right? Anything in the world does take inspiration, whether it comes from an invention and things stem off of it. Sony takes from Microsoft, and then also, in the 70s when we had TVs, if your neighbor had a TV, you had to have a TV, and vice versa. So just like with fragrance and notes, etc., everything takes inspiration and stems off of a certain innovation, if you will.
Definitely.
So with that being said, the bottle's inspiration, it came from a blueprint of mine that I was really into, glassware, more specifically like shot glasses, etc. Although I don't drink, I've always had an appreciation for the way that it looks. It's almost like this crystal look while not
Right.
being too loud in the coloration. I love gold. I wear a lot of gold, etc. And so that's where the whole, gold came in. And also the finish, I've always loved that ceramic, grainy, sandy texture that almost feels like cement. And so all three in one combined is what their design team came back with. We went through a couple of variances, and I have to tip my hat off to the design team of French Avenue. They came back with a few designs, and this one really took the cake. I mean, ceramic finish, and usually this finish you'll only see on bottles that sell for upwards of $350, including
Mm-hmm.
something like Amouage, for example. If you guys don't know, they
Right.
have their cement bottles, which is gray. And so I decided to make something a little bit fun, definitely inspired by that in the design realm, just in the texture and the gradient. But for the most part, the main design is going to be clear, as it should be with that crystallized design. So this was
Yeah.
fun. It was an experiment of ours to do both. And it worked out. It actually worked out really nicely. The color of the bottle itself was inspired by some of the notes, red raspberry, incensey, smoky. And then the gold is just onto the whole gold thing, kind of being loud, fun, all that good stuff. So as you guys can see, the Aromatix is raised. It's a pretty high quality plastic. And the cap does have some weight. It's not metal and it snaps onto place. So this can only stem off of meticulous attention to detail with the presentation. And that's
Definitely.
exactly what we did. So the creation of this fragrance took anywhere from 8 to 9 months with some inspiration stemming off of very specifically this. And the oud in this one isn't anything animalistic. It's not too traditional, and it's found in other fragrances that I really enjoy. Something with passion fruit. There's even a very popular oud fragrance, nomad fragrance, there's marcuja. And those two fragrances utilize a very I guess you could say moderately westernized style of Indian oud. And this one
Right.
isn't too. And with that being said, yeah, so it's inky. It almost quite literally, for those of you who don't know what it's going to smell like, is ballpoint ink, literally like that. And I know on its own, it's going to sound strange, slightly metallic, maybe a little bit like this tarry nature to it, and even woody undertones. And that's exactly what it is. But trust me, in combination with other notes, it's actually quite addicting, intoxicating, and unusual. And that's what we did. Rather than using passion fruit, which has been used, we decided to go with some kind of raspberry. There are other fragrances in the market that do utilize the raspberry or oud style DNA with that incense, except we've added a touch of like cotton candy, some orris, etc. And we came up with something like this. So while it might not be something that is like many other fragrances, created from the ground up, it is still something that is, how can I say this, created from us and gone back and forth sampling when it comes to concentrations, the addition of those notes, etc. So in my opinion, this is something that we've achieved fully in terms of like the scent profile we were going out to achieve. And it will have similarities to others that are, in my opinion, loves, fragrances, and it's packed into Carnal Desire. What doesn't change is the fact that this is $60 and those are around 350, 250, even up to $500. The quality of these was one of the most things we paid attention to was the quality and the longevity. There's no way I'm going to
Obviously.
produce a fragrance that doesn't pump. And for $60, there's nothing that's going to be this strong. I mean, at least in this scent profile. So we went back and forth, finally, came to conclusion on extrait de parfums. And, with concentration, it really makes a difference in the scent profile. If you go from an eau de parfum to an extrait de parfum, it actually changes the scent profile significantly. So
Right.
that's pretty much it. Definitely having some inspirations to other fragrances with our own unique touch to it, and still a better value than any of those fragrances, at least in my opinion. And that's pretty much it with Carnal Desire. It took us about 8 to 9 months with this one. Finally coming down to something that's much more wearable than any of those fragrances that I have in my collection, at least. And that was really the W. That was the win for Carnal Desire. Something that's unisex, that does have masculine traits to it, the leather, the incense, that dry, inky oud, and then adding a bit more, I don't want to say feminine, but unisex traits to it to bring it right back into what I think is perfectly unisex for those who enjoy a more bolder, incensey scent profile. And we're talking about you ladies. So I do think that it favors very slightly masculine, but it would be equally sexy on a woman as well. The box presentation, is something that I'm very, very proud of as well. And the presentation on itself. So that was
Yeah, it looks
for
awesome,
Carnal
man.
Desire.
Also, for the
Yeah.
people who are listening to this on like Apple Podcasts or like an audio only platforms, you could have honestly, seen the unboxing. You can just switch to YouTube. The video version is going to be available on YouTube. And if
Yes.
you're already watching on YouTube, that's nice. But if you're, listening to this on an audio platform, then you need to check out this
I
bottle
invite
if
you to check it
haven't.
out. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
even Google it, Aromatix Carnal Desire or Royal Taboo. It'll pop up on Google. Even, you can find where to purchase this if you are interested. But I will give a little bit of a disclaimer with this one. It's very bold. It's very intense. It does have like this Middle Eastern French touch to the whole Oudi vibe. So it's
It
very
had to be,
different.
right? It had to be.
Yes. But I will say it's not the most complex. It's not as hard to wear as it sounds. It's just very bold, especially in comparison to like, dude, we're talking about like light blue, right? Like fresh and just easy. This is exotic. This is something I'd wear to a wedding. I'd wear to get noticed. The other day I was going to get groceries. I sprayed 2 sprays of this on, and I had a couple literally follow me to ask what I was wearing. And that was an epic W. So definitely will stand out rocking something like this. And at this price range, it's unheard of for this style of scent profile. Yeah.
Would you
Very
say it's an
proud of
everyday
Carnal
scent?
Desire. I would not. I would not say this
You
is
can't
every
wear it
day.
every day.
I mean, to be honest with you, this is something that's supposed to be a little bit more exotic, a little bit more
Special occasion
every day.
types.
Not necessarily that limited, but it will
Okay.
work. If you're in a very cold climate, you could potentially daily it. I mean, honestly, if you're that type of person who likes these scent profiles, you could every day
Right.
it. Honestly, I see people in the East who have a taste for bolder fragrances, especially during the wintertime. You would. I have been dailying it during the wintertime. And like most of my coats, they smell like this weeks later, like literally weeks later. It's enormous in its
Exactly.
performance. And as of right now, these are somewhat limited stock, you guys. There's a limited stock remaining. As far as bringing them back in stock, I'm not sure exactly how long or if or when it'll be back in stock. I just know that it'll take a minimum 6 months to restock some of these. And that's it for Carnal Desire. So very proud of Carnal Desire. It's of the two, one that we went a lot more in depth trying to get that fragrance accomplished. And Royal Taboo is another interesting and significantly different story. I'll tell you that much. Royal Taboo is a significantly different story.
So do
And,
you really prefer Carnal Desire over it, right? I mean, it's
So-
one of those styles that you actually prefer, basically.
Somewhat. We all have a kid
Carnal
that we
Desire.
like a little bit more. Somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
It's just
Carnal
much
Desire for you.
Bolder. Yeah, man. Yeah. Carnal Desire takes the cake for me because Royal Taboo is a little bit more mass appealing. It's easier to wear, and it's going to be that fragrance that you can wear every day during the fall and the winter. You can
Right.
even wear it to the office. And so let's go ahead and let's talk about it then. The only difference
not?
between Carnal Desire and Royal Taboo is going to be the color. And this obviously is more in line with the whole theme, which is tobacco. And so you see these earthy tones to it. We wanted to maintain the color of the, plaque, etc. And then we have that same authenticity. You guys do want to make sure with the authenticity sticker because there's been, dude, people have been, copying $15 fragrances. It's crazy. So I wouldn't be surprised if these get copied. And I'll tell you what, if somebody decides to clone these,
Exactly. I was
review
just going to come to that.
I will review it.
Yes,
have
you
my
need
word.
to.
I
Exactly.
swear to. First off, I will. You guys have my word. Like I will.
Exactly. You have to do it.
Why
First,
wouldn't
it's going to be good content first. Second,
Yeah.
that
It's
means you've
authentic.
made it.
No, even aside from that, true. But even aside from that, it's authentic.
That's a
This
good
is me.
thing
This
to
is who
be.
I've always
I mean,
been.
that's a
And you
nice
guys have
place
my
to be,
word.
though.
Listen, if it gets cloned, I swear to God, I will freaking review it side by side. If they can get it, how
Yeah.
close? We'll keep it real. But they'll never touch this quality at this price. I'll
Obviously.
tell you that because of the story with this. Let's illustrate why with Royal Taboo. Now, Royal Taboo is something that I am going to say I took a lot more inspiration from, okay? There's a very underrated tobacco scent that I think really got overshadowed. And one of the reasons why is because of the price point. Now, when you sell a fragrance for $450, $500, it's a little bit unappealing. I would argue and say that as a collector myself, I had no problem buying it. Okay, but that's not the case with everybody. So we're not going to sit here and compare financial statuses. But the reality of it is when you have a fragrance for $450, it's not intended to be marketed for a certain crowd of people. That's the reality of it. Life sucks. Economy sucks. It is what it is. But with that being said, this fragrance got overshadowed. It's tobacco, it's myrrh, it's vanilla, it's benzo, and I freaking loved it. But I did find that it was a little bit too resinous, etc. And one thing that I mentioned about the quality of both of these ingredients and the sourcing of the oils, I said that we get it from the same factories you would get some of the fragrances that use these specific oils or notes. And we did. So with this Royal Taboo, I basically, found the same sources at the same level of quality and recreated it into this. It's tobacco, it's cinnamon, it's heliotrope, sandalwood, vanilla, and a sexy dose of cardamom. Something that's light, that's naturalistic. The spices in this one is not something that you're going to smell and be like, oh, it's sweet cardamom or sweet cinnamon. It's more of a naturalistic baking style of cardamom and cinnamon. If you open your kitchen spice of cinnamon, you smell it, it's still got that naturalistic dry dry, woody undertones, which comes from a bark. Cinnamon in itself, it comes from a bark. And the cardamom in itself having some cedarwood essence, or nuances, and then those spice from the cardamom. And I usually get cedarwood a little bit from cardamom coming from the outer level of the shell. It has like this woody texture that's light and blonde. And that's the texture of the spices you get with this. Also, the addition of heliotrope, making it even lighter, more diffusive, and tobacco. So I love that scent. It's also warm and resinous and extremely unisex, in my opinion. Does lean and favor a little bit more so the masculine coming from the spices and the tobacco, but it works in both. And so because of that, I knew that one of the biggest obstacles with a scent like that is the $450. So I wanted to reimagine it and do it in a way that I found would make it better. So what I in fact did was I recreated a similar style of notes and accords, except in a more naturalistic way. I even changed maybe 2 of the notes, I want to say. I don't want to give off too much of the formula. And instead of changing that note, no, I just used what I smelled as a higher quality ingredient. So with that being said, I used a similar combination of notes from oils. Instead of getting it from the same factory, there are basically 3 to 4 main factories that produce these oils in Germany, etc. And instead of using a tobacco note from, let's say, factory A, I used it from factory B. And there were subtle differences in those nuances. One gave me a lighter smelling tobacco. One gave me a more molasses style of vanilla. And we replaced maybe 1 or 2 of those accords, giving me what I found a better, more refined, and smoother scent profile than even that fragrance that I fell in love with. So with that being said, what you are getting is the same high quality ingredients, formula opened up and really extracted and used the best portions, and some of the portions which I found to be slightly, imperfect to my nose at least, perfected in that sense. And I ended up with Royal Taboo. So a little different, and maybe even a little bit more inspiration taken for this one in specific, but ultimately what it ended up with is something so sexy. I get a mashup of different fragrances that, have been known to be like tobacco, amber, maybe a little vanilla, cardamom, spice, and you end up with what what I can arguably say is one of the best tobacco scents at this price point, especially for $59.99. You cannot go wrong with Royal Taboo. Sexy, mysterious, naturalistic Royal Taboo. It also lasts the entire day, man. When I'm going on a date, something a bit more sophisticated, a little bit less in your face, this is the one that I'm pulling out and I'm rocking. And I didn't give this one enough credit initially when I first had them. The other thing that I mentioned is that some of these bottles went through hell and back with me, and they stood the time or the test of time. This Royal Taboo that's on the print, this was initially supposed to be engraved. However, because of time constraints, it was printed on. But my bottles are still there, dude. Like, they're still there. It held up, and it's really, really, really nice, man. Terms of everything. So that's pretty much how I came about with Royal Taboo and Carnal Desire, and that's the
pretty interesting
truth. Yeah.
Also, I remember, the presentation and all, it's fine, the notes and everything. That's something that, people are going to appreciate. There's something that, a bunch of people were talking about, at least one specific guy already. I think he mentioned that $59.99 is a pretty ballsy price.
That was actually kind of crazy.
Is that a pretty ballsy price? Because $60, even if you consider if someone's going to order it from a different country, or even if they're in the US, or even if they're in the Canada, $60 is like a very basic price, I feel.
I mean, dude, if you go to Burlington right now, if you go into Burlington right now, right, and you try and find like a 1.7 or like even a 3 ounce of like light blue, it's $50. It's $50. You're getting a basic scent profile. If you go and find Banana Republic, a 3-hour fragrance, still some of them are really good. It's $25. I don't think it's ballsy at all. Actually, I think that comment is ballsy.
Yeah,
I'm not judging.
$59.99. Obviously, we're not judging, but what was the pricing discussions like with French Avenue? Because I'm sure you were involved.
I actually went.
And what was that like?
So interesting. I'm glad you asked that, actually, because this is something that I went through for 3 months.
You've created this from scratch with them, and everything has been done from scratch. Then when it comes to pricing, what was your involvement like, and how did you...
So in order to answer this, let me talk about my involvement with this fragrance. It's not your traditional collab that you guys have seen. This was from A
Exactly.
to Z. The request was, handed off from me to the one of the owners of the brand, and it was something that we passed off as an idea for 8 months. We passed off just as an idea, and I have to honestly say that the owner is somebody, you guys, who is just as enthusiastic in fragrance as I am. Or maybe in a later time, talking about before we get into it, I'll go more in depth with this one because it'll go further in that. But there's some big reasons why I picked this brand. But anyway, so in terms of the involvement, it started there. And then from there, everything I had a hand in, you guys. It was from A to Z. The idea conceptually, when it comes to the marketing aspect, when it comes to even PR that we're working on, when it comes to gifting, when it comes to just everything that's going to be surrounding this, including the basics, which comes to the blueprints of the designs. As I described earlier, I sent over drafts and photos and images. And together, I couldn't have asked for a better freaking company to do it with, man, because together we truly thrived. And it's very evident just in this design. Like Safir, one of the owners that does also the head of design, is the one who finessed this. So it started initially with the design. Safir was the signature. French Avenue is a signature brand that just literally brings you this quality and the signature. But the scent profiles ultimately started with me. We started with about, Rishi, I mean, you would be surprised. We started with about, I think it was like 34 scents, fragrances. And the first 30 literally was scrapped. Like, dude, they were sending me like samples, scrap, scrap, scrap. And I think we came down to like, I think this had to be like the batch of, because they sent them in batches. And this was in the batch of like 60 to 68. So they sent me 8 samples in this one batch, and I found one of them. And even one of them, it started as like a cherry oud, and the cherry was in place of the raspberry. And there was one reason I didn't like the cherry, because the cherry in itself kind of contributed a little bit more of a medicine vibe. And so the next batch they sent me, we replaced it with like the raspberry. And that's when I fell in love with this one. Similar things happened with Royal Taboo. So we got that original style fragrance, and even then I felt like we can perfect it. Let's use the same notes, but give me something from another brand of this and that and this and that. And so total,
Right.
I would say about 80 trials for both of these in total, I would say. And
That's
so it
crazy.
really did, dude. It spanned from 6 to 9 months in total. It
And
was
it's also
absolutely
considering
insane.
that you were in the US and they were in the
Yeah,
Middle East.
in Dubai. But they're so
Yeah.
connected, man. They made these shipments happen literally like I would get them in like 8 days. 8 days, man. They blew me away. When I initially thought that like this would be the company to do this with, because
Hmm.
initially I was honestly planning on doing this on my own, bringing an
Right.
affordable line. But the pricing structure didn't permit, because I didn't have the connections that this company would have, French Avenue.
Obviously.
I didn't have the same qualities that they would have. They buy in bulk, they have connections, and so initially I wanted to create this, and it would have been like $90 to $120 fragrances, which might be inspired by, might be whatever, might be re-envisioned, reimagined. And I don't think there's anything wrong with reimagined, re-envisioned, especially if you're giving me a better value, better performance, etc. But then as I explored it with them, our pricing was supposed to be at $80. And all
Right.
parties were happy with this $80, except for, there was still that question. And French Avenue they were honestly compliant with everything in regards to believing in the vision, believing in me, believing in the pricing, believing in you guys, believing in the community and the support that the community would give for a project like this, because this wasn't about the money. And in order for me to really deliver that home, bro, I wanted to make an even more impact on that $80 price. So we started to explore, who would carry it, started looking into Joma shops, started looking into retailers across the East. And these were all things that I was doing, you guys. Like I was having these meetings with Joma shop, also with French Avenue together, and we were trying to explore who would be the best fit. And with that being said, profit margins came into consideration, which I am involved in. This isn't just a collab. This is my brand that I'm fulfilling with French Avenue. And that's why,
Exactly.
truth be told, I don't like to call it a collab. I like to call it my brand. But the reality of it is, it's my brand in collaboration with French Avenue. And I'm so proud to be able to say that it's in collaboration with them,
Exactly.
because they deserve the light and the credit that they will, that we both are
They
getting
made
from
it
this.
possible with you, and like they obviously deserve the credit. Yeah.
100%. So initially, I started with this $80 price range, and my profit margins were decent. They were decent, and we were like, okay, let's go ahead and do it. Then we came around Christmas time, and these were supposed to launch around Christmas. I really wanted to make a bigger impact. Dude, like $80. It's not that accessible. $60, 55, yes. But I also want to make a little bit to be able to recreate and do this, you know? And so
Exactly.
my profit
Right.
margins significantly dropped from something that would have been, you know, decent and like it gave me a good life into something that's like literally like $1.50 a bottle, you guys. Like, and I said, you know what? I'll eat it. It is what it is. And there's a lot of hands in the pot, and it'll make more sense once we dive into that. And so we went, and in order to make this possible, we found a middleman who can transport these fragrances from Dubai to the West for a cheaper price. But that's the only reason that it wasn't available during Christmas time. And although I really wanted it available during Christmas, the ultimate, you know, benefit of that delay was going to result in a fragrance that sells for the foreseeable future at 60 versus at 80. And also the biggest thing as well, which really had me teeter-totting over, do we do it? Do we not do it? Was that profit margin that I would not be making. But I ultimately checked myself and I realized, like, what's my goal here? What's my goal here? Is it to eat off of this or is it to create a legacy? You know, I'm still going to eat, but do I really have to eat with two hands? Because what's the likelihood of me choking if I try to eat with two hands? Very likely. And failing and not succeeding. What's the likelihood of succeeding at
True.
a $60 price range? A lot more likely. So it's fine. Let me eat with this one hand. And there's a saying in Arabic, like, "Man akala biyadayn ikhtanag." So if you eat with two hands, you're more likely to choke. And so I decided, let me put the other hand down. Let's lower the prices, you guys. Let's do whatever we need to do. Let's hire the appropriate parties and let's make these more accessible. So $59.99 is that, and that is 100% my doing because ultimately it's my brand that has to uphold a certain reputation. That's another factor that a lot of people don't consider in marketing is that when you put your brand at a certain price, you pretty much lock your brand. If it's too high, you've locked it. If it's too low, you've also destroyed it in a
Yeah.
sense. How can you
Exactly.
ever increase your prices from something low unless you're objectively and factually giving some increase? And ultimately, if we do objectively give an increase, it would obviously increase. But I'm a very factual and cut the bullshit type of person. So if we increase a price, we're going to tell you exactly why. And I'm going to show you exactly why. I'm not just going to increase and say, oh, the cost gone up. I'll show you the cost got up. And then we can go from there. And so with that being said, man, yes, I did have a single hand involvement in the pricing and I have a single hand involvement in the distribution. We selected together the distributors of the UK, of Europe, of even, you know, it's going to be distributed in the UAE, the GCC, Saudi Arabia. We're working on that constantly. I'm working on that constantly. I have frequent meetings almost every morning with different brands, different, you know, companies wanting to carry these and not carry these, and even with French Avenue together. So essentially, when it comes to the Aromatix, this is my brand that I am doing in partnership very proudly and very honorably with French Avenue. They deserve every bit of the credit. And they're honestly like, you know, I'm not saying this to say me, but rather to be factual. And we're both very, our practices, business practices, this is why we fell in line, Rishi, so well, is because we're very righteous. This is yours.
Right.
It's yours. Done. And that's the information I'm giving you. This information is the fact. Yes, I
Exactly.
have hand in prices. Ultimately, they're going to be the stamp. No, Neeb, we can't do it at this price. Done. They will be. But I'm going to bring the suggestions. They're going to open that channel and allow it. And that channel that they have opened for me has been, I mean, dude, like, it's an honor. It's a freaking honor. Because ultimately, could I have done it myself? Yes. But would it be this epic? Would it be at these prices? Would it be these designs? Fuck no. Fuck no. A custom bottle, you guys, a custom bottle like this, in order to get this
Wouldn't
from
have
China,
happened.
I've already done. Dude, I already did the math and the research. You have to order a minimum of 10,000 bottles in order for China to even open what's called a mold. A mold is a
Right.
customized piece of steel or iron or whatever they use that's construed or you know, created and crafted into that design of glass you want. They then pour the glass into it. So in order for them to make that mold for you, bro, you have to pay $10,000. And each cost of that mold is going to range anywhere from 18 to 24, maybe even $25 depending on the design you want to go into. So let's factor that in if I had done that just for this. Alexa, what's 25 times 10,000? $250,000 would have cost me just to create Royal Taboo. Now, look, you guys, I put my entire life savings into some of these, but who the fuck has $250,000? Now, I don't have connections to maybe start a credit or tell this company, hey, make me the 10,000, I'll pay you as we sell. I don't have that. French Avenue might. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but 250,000. You're talking about a $500,000 just for the designs. not to mention the oils. Now factor in the oils, which we're using grade A oils, and each bottle at the very least consisting of $5 to $8 in oils, okay? You're talking about, it's sold by kilograms. We did not skimp on the oil quality, okay? So now you're looking at an average of about $30, maybe $35. We are not joking when we say niche level stuff in these bottles. And we're not joking when we say profit margins are not the driving cost or factor here. Now the costs for those bottles, etc., could potentially have gone down, more specific. This is just a general idea, and with French Avenue having their connections, more than likely are able to get those at lower prices, but not me. And so with that being said, then you end up with a product that's around $32 cost, let's say, for instance. And when you look at other popular brands that are selling for $300, $400, that's generally speaking the cost, around $30 to $45 tops. That is absolute tops. And then
but then you're paying for the brand, right? But then
and then you go and spend about
value.
Then you go and spend about 4 to 5 times. And that's generally speaking in the perfume industry, that's the standard profit margin. It's 4 to 5 times. That's otherwise people don't generally do the business if it's not 4 to 5 times minimum. We cut that. We're not doing 4 to 5 times with these. We're doing like 0.75, maybe, 1.5, maybe. Because if you think about it at that point, we then have to sell these off to somebody like Joma Shop, right? For instance. And our selling cost to Joma Shop is going to be lower because of the fact that, like I said, even though the actual costs would have been, for me personally, around $35 a bottle for Fragrance World or for French Avenue, I should say, it's not. It's lower. And because of that, we're able to sell it then to Joma Shop at a lower price. And then they can make their profits. Now, Joma Shop, in order for them to carry these, it has to make sense. They have to be able to cover their costs, their overhead, the staff that's going to package it, that's going to ship it. And at minimum, remember that 4 to 5 times profit is what most brands are looking for. But Joma Shop also believed in the process as well. They also believed in me, and they also believed in this project, and they also believed in this wave of Middle Eastern fragrance. So that's ultimately what this is as well. It's not just about affordable luxury. It's more than that. It's Middle Eastern fragrance. It's about the community. It's about giving back. It's about the legacy. And so they took it, and they are making a decent profit margin. And I would say even more so than me. But it makes sense. They want to make money. Why should I carry your stuff, bro? Why should I carry your stuff? And so with that being said, we're able to pay the middleman, the people who ship it here. That's another portion that I didn't factor in. We're able to pay the costs of French Avenue, which is at least half of what I would have paid it on myself, which I would have paid at least double just the cost. And also, I would have had to have that $500,000 to pay up front. And then we end up with a product that's being sold for $60. So if you think about it like that, even if, for instance, in order for Joma to make their profits, they want to sell it at let's say, for instance, 55, right? Maybe 53. And the remainder is, if any, there are affiliate programs. They have affiliate programs with other influencers. Maybe they want to make, a 10% commission. Then that $50 that Joma Shop is going to pocket, or, the difference from their cost to $50, which is like $25 a bottle, let's say, or $30 a bottle, whatever it may be. It might be smaller than that, you guys. So don't take these numbers as an exact, but rather I'm giving you an overall idea. Then there's a 10% to the person, the creator, the incentive to talk about it. Whether or not they're truthful is really up to the creator. I've never compromised, but that's ultimately whoever your favorite creator is, I would imagine. And for the most part, I have a lot of friends that no matter what, keep it real, regardless of commission or not. But then they also have to be able to give them their 10% if they do link it, etc. As with everything in any other industry. And so that's another $4. So now you're sitting at about $56. I'll take home probably like the $150 or $2, and there you go. And that's pretty much it. And then also, obviously, I have my royalties for this with French Avenue in regards to the actual brand. The brand is mine, so obviously I'm going to make some money. This isn't something that I'm just doing as, for free. No, absolutely not. But at the same time, in that sense, I am definitely, profit is the last thing in mind. Profit is the last thing in mind. It's absolutely there. Don't get it twisted. Nothing in this world works for free, unfortunately.
Exactly. True. But then eventually we're also getting value out of it, right? A lot of people are getting value out of these fragrances. They're pretty good as far as I can hear.
Yeah. The bang for buck and the value is intended to exceed what you pay. Otherwise, this would be pointless. And the only way that I could do that, I couldn't do that. Moral of the story is I couldn't do it myself. I couldn't. Truthfully, I could not. And I had a couple of offers from other brands to do the same exact thing. But ultimately, I had faith and trust in the oil quality and from A to Z, just the French Avenue, man. Ultimately, you guys, this is my brand that I've had a role in, and I have to this very day 100% involvement that I am doing through French Avenue. And not to mention, French Avenue does white labeling, which white labeling, if you guys don't know, is if you want to start a brand, you go through them and they give you, you can go through blueprints, etc. And they do this as well. Like probably I would say about 3 to 4 other companies in Dubai, maybe 5 total. There aren't that many companies that actually have their own factories in Dubai. And this is another topic of discussion we'll go into another time, where a lot of these companies that are stemming from Dubai are actually coming from the same factories. So it's kind of ironic when people say like, oh, this one smells better than this brand's and that brand's, but it's coming from the same factory, you guys.
Yeah, what if it's
How
made the
likely
same
are they
way,
to-
it's exactly at the same place?
Not only the same way, but how likely are they to give them a better oil? Think about it like that. Like
Right.
that brand
Oh.
is going to release the same fragrance. And that's a whole nother topic that's juicy. Boy, that's a juicy topic, you guys. And I cannot wait. And this ties back into my whole Clone Wars series and like a lot of people saying like this one is better than that one. And, I'm really in this. And I've been to multiple factories. I've seen operations. I know what brands get fulfilled by certain factories. And so I know which one actually gets closest, aside from the nose. And I don't know everything when it comes to that. There are some brands that I don't know, but I know there are a lot of popular brands that are actually not their own manufactured. They are white labels as well, which is essentially what these kind of are, except just not white label, very proudly working together, even more so than a white label. And that's pretty much it, man. I mean, a lot of these niche companies you see as well. Do you think some of these niche companies have their own factories? Dude, there are Middle Eastern cheapie companies right now that are fulfilling for niche companies, by the way. Actually, yes,
Okay, then.
actually. I would say maybe even upwards of 75% of these niche companies, you guys, are being fulfilled. But being
Okay, these are
fulfilled
some
doesn't necessarily, they
good
are
points.
some heavy topics that we're going to be. But I'll tell you what, the difference and the biggest takeaway from is that these niche companies are still getting their oils from big sources rather than from
Right.
those Middle Eastern factories. So Middle Eastern
Right,
factories
right.
might not be getting it from the more known Givaudan and Firmenich, and they're using it for themselves. And these niche companies are then ordering the oils from Firmenich, Givaudan, allegedly. This is the idea. And this is kind of what I'm going through as well. And I say this, let me speak about my brand, for example. I'm working on another brand. It's called Demi, okay? And this has been in the works for the last year and a half. I'm getting my oils from Firmenich, right? And this is more luxury. And I will be having it fulfilled in a factory. And what this means is that this factory will take that bulk oil order that I'm ordering from Firmenich. So for example, I have to order a certain amount of kilograms. It's a minimum order that I worked with a perfumer, and I am currently working with a perfumer for those. They're going to send those barrels of oils of that juice to this factory, and this factory is simply going to put it together, QC, lock it, saran wrap it, done. So this factory still fulfilled it, but it's not their oils, you see? So even though
Right.
it seems very like, oh my God, these Dubai companies are making even the niche. Yes, they are. But for, I would say about 50% of them, they're still using better oils than some of these Dubai companies. The Dubai companies still use great oils, but it might be tier B, tier C occasionally, and they can sell it, and they'll still get it from those, other big popular manufacturers, just selling it for cheaper because of, maybe the notes and the accords are not as close. They're still clean, they're still safe for use, otherwise it wouldn't be sold. And
Right.
rather, they're just putting everything together because they need to put it together. Where are these niche companies going to
Obviously.
put their fragrances together? They don't have factories. So they might use
Exactly.
more known, cheaper Dubai factories that will take the oil, the high quality oil, take the high quality presentation, just package it and send it out to you. Does it compromise the performance? Doesn't compromise the quality? It's still absolutely outstanding quality. And it'll be higher quality than that Dubai factory that's packaging it, right? But it is getting fulfilled ultimately there. So there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want, the perception of, oh my God, they're getting Dubai cheapies and they're selling it. No. They still are getting, but a lot of the factories that are putting things together are these cheaper Middle Eastern factories. Now, whether or not they're using the actual, higher tier or something you could generally sense in the fragrance, but also something else that should reflect in the price point. But there are still some niche companies that will present as niche that are even using B and C tier oils. And there are niche companies that are using A tier oils that are worthy of higher price points, even if manufactured in those Middle Eastern companies. And the whole takeaway from this, what I'm trying to say, is that these Middle Eastern companies or factories, they're seen as like something lower, but they're in fact higher. They've been fulfilling orders for niche companies, even sometimes before their own, right? Even sometimes more than their own. Ultimately, they provide a service that some of these niche companies can't, and some of these niche companies actually need. And so what the drive and the takeaway from this is that these companies, these factories are not getting the credit that they deserve. They do a lot more than just give you cheap fragrances. They actually give you many of those niche fragrances that you enjoy, that you pay $200 to $400 for. They actually do. Not all, but some of them do, actually. And I know a few that you'll find in Sephora that do get fulfilled by other reputable factories that have great QC. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Wow. Yeah, there's quite a few like information, and I have an extensive background, you guys. I can't wait to share with you guys, and I think that this is going to be one of the
That's what the
best
podcast
ways.
is for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is what we're, going to be talking about in the future. Like, it's obviously going to be fragrance, but it's also going to be a lot in depth about how the industry works, because Neeb has a lot of knowledge and I don't. And
I don't think
where
that
I come in.
I think the contrast is actually very beneficial. And I think that for the most part, at least when we go into in-depth, subjects like this, it's gonna have to be a long description. And let me just make it clear, like, I'm just an average person who obsessively loves fragrance and whose obsession drove this far. Really. I have like OCD, I have like mental things, and what was once upon a time my curse ended up becoming my blessing. Because of this, I used to wake up and spend hours calling companies, manufacturers calling, and I loved Middle Eastern fragrances, and I didn't understand why wasn't it spoken of? And then after some digging, investigations, time digging, I knew why. I knew the certain marketing aspects as to why, not having any sorts of affiliations or incentives for other reviewers. And at times where I was talking about these before there was any incentive, just wondering why weren't people talking about these? And I didn't care. It wasn't going to stop me. I understood then why, because they weren't accessible. There was no incentive. And so I made it my life mission to change that. And here we are, a year and a half later after the Middle Eastern fragrance wave, and look at where we are. And I have to admit, like, I put a lot of my skin and back into setting up all of these, spending hours on phone calls with brothers who don't even speak English, explaining to them how we can change the industry, how it deserves to change the industry, affiliate marketing, incentivizing for other affiliates, what we can do, and that's something else that I think will be an interesting topic. But I think for today, main takeaway is how we came about with my brand Aromatix, in collaboration with French Avenue. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. I'm still working around the clock. We have meetings in regards to PR, how we're going to be creating gifts, meet and greets, events, also the next line of fragrances, which are already, I would say we're about 2 months out. We've been working on that for the last 5 months now. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that as well, because like, what's next?
Yeah, well, we have one fresh coming out. It's definitely, I took an inspiration of naturalistic style scents. I love the way that tonic water smells, the carbonated fizzy. Think about like a Sprite, you guys. But I also love the note of mint and a couple of fragrances that I really, really enjoy. I'm taking some inspiration from that, but also emphasizing and perfecting in what I would imagine would make it even better. Longevity for it is outstanding. I put something crisp in it, something that's, a heavier dose of ambroxan, really make it project, last long. And then a vanilla fragrance that this one is a little bit more of a truly starting from scratch style vanilla. And this is one that, believe it or not, I was in another factory when I was in Dubai. I was in a Dumont factory, okay? And they had a bunch of the oils, and I was just messing around, and I was playing around with Alvin. Alvin, shout out to Alvin. He's one of the heads, the creative in Dumont. And they actually create their own fragrances, believe it or not. And I'd love to see if I have some images still. Maybe we can show them. If not, anyway. So we were there and he had a bunch of oils out. And I would see like, bro, can we make like a vanilla? Like I want vanilla spice, like just straight up vanilla spice. And so he pulls out a bunch of different accords. And he's like, this is a whiskey accord. This is a spiced wine accord. I was like, what? Spiced wine? He was like, yeah, this is rum. This is Madagascar vanilla. And then there was like Tahitian vanilla. And this is that vanilla, bourbon vanilla. And so I took 3 vanillas, I mixed them up, and I used rum, I used that wine accord, and it ended up with something that was just, I found so intoxicating. This spiced, ambery, just amazing vanilla. And so this is one that's truly going to be much more of like a truer take, whether or not, I mean, it's vanilla and spice. I'm sure there might be things that'll like, remind you of, but this is one that I think has the potential to be one of the best vanilla fragrances. Forget the price, just one of the best vanilla spice. And I mean, as epic as something like, for example, that famous, the Cat Baby. You know how Cat Baby was so epic? Baby Cat. Baby Cat was such an epic
Baby
suede
cat.
vanilla
Okay.
fragrance, right? This
I'm
smells
like,
nothing
what are
like
you
it.
talking about?
Yeah, it smells nothing like it. But you see how epic that was? I have a feeling that this one has the potential to be that epic because whenever I wear Baby Cat, it's bold, it's rich, it's so sexy. That's equivalent to how I feel when I wear mine. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. There's only one thing though, and I'll let you guys in on this. The names. So one of which we already named it. One is called Platine Blanc, and that's going to be the fresh mint, wine cooler and mint, mojito vibes, but truer to that. And then we have a black one, and then look at that. We have a black one. This is going to be an iris-based fragrance, which, by the way, Dior has like kind of done away with their buttery iris, but it'll live through me. You guys, I love that accord. And I've spent years trying to recreate that iris. And it's very difficult, I think, because of some IFRA regulations, but I've managed to find certain ways to, with it being regulated, find that accord and be able to use it. So I personally want to keep that alive through my fragrances. And that's going to be in the black one. And then, so in the white one, we plan on doing, the vanilla, and in the clear one, the fresh one. So the white one, Platine Blanc, is going to be the vanilla. The Momento Mori is going to be the sexy ass iris vanilla incense. And then, and maybe some Palo Santo in that one as well. And then lastly, the clear one is going to be called, I think the clear one is called XX Sandal or something, X Sandal or something like that. It's too late to change the name.
Yeah.
We wanted
We're
to
going
do
to find
X
out
Scandal.
soon enough.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. That's pretty much it, man. That's pretty much it
But
for
yeah,
those creations.
it's been a great journey, I feel, for you to start creating content and eventually have your
Yeah.
name on a fragrance bottle. Not just for like name purposes, but for like a brand purpose where you've actually created something from scratch. That
Yeah.
must feel
Yeah.
great, I feel.
It's something of an honor and also something I'm very, very proud of. Very, very proud of. I put a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears. This is what I live, man. I have no life. I do this. And I wouldn't change a thing. And there's more to come. There's more to come. Like I said, I'm coming out with that luxury brand that's truthfully going to be something that's still goal is under $200, but giving you something of an even different experience as well. Not to take credit from either one or vice versa. These are still outstanding. Value, that's the whole point of this. Value at luxury. And then that one being a little bit more of that's pretty much it, man, for the creations. Yeah.
But I think that's time. I think we've talked about your fragrances, and I feel this was a lot of information for your viewers and everyone listening right now.
Very necessary, I feel. Very necessary for sure.
I mean, this is what
One
the
last
goal of
thing
the
before
podcast
we
is.
wrap it up, I forgot. We do plan on doing miniature versions as well. And little 4-packs with miniature versions as well, which is going to be so
That's going to be
sick,
interesting.
man.
Yeah.
No limits, man. No limits. We're having fun, man. And we can only do this with your support, you guys. For those of you listening, if you're interested, make sure to check out my main channel on YouTube here, which is Aromatix RRT or just Aromatix. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and all that. If TikTok is still available, which, wow, man. That's another
we'll
topic
find
that
out.
we could definitely touch on that on another topic. Because like we said, this podcast is not just about, fragrance. We want to talk about how TikTok affected me, what I went through with that and all that good stuff, which is quite a story in itself and how
a bunch of things happen.
But yeah, man. So if you do want to support and check these bottles out, that's the best way you guys could support. And grab yourself a bottle for Royal Taboo or Carnal Desire. And make sure to follow me on YouTube, Instagram, and all of that good stuff. Rishi has been a good friend of mine for quite some time. Also my editor and my co-host. I really appreciate your time here, Rishi. And
thanks so much.
I look
man.
forward to
It's nice
people
being
getting to
here.
know us a little bit more, man.
I mean, I'm sure people know you, but like, yeah.
But I feel like they know the YouTube me, right? They know
exactly.
Don't get that. Get this instead me. They know that.
There's going to be much more than that.
Every man. Yeah. And it's going to bring a lot
true.
more context. It's going to bring a lot more context. I say this as, and everything in this experience, as always, I say very humbly, nobody's special. I'm just somebody who went through trials and this is the path that God allowed me ultimately and my experience. And that's the goal here. That's pretty much it.
But I'm glad where we are right now in this exact point of time.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for watching the first real episode in the Aromatix show. My name is Neeb, your host, and Rishi, your co-host, and we'll see you guys in the next one. And until then, peace.
Peace.